I've been thinking about why there's so much misunderstanding of what's going on in Ethiopia. I'm going to talk about two areas. It's not politics, it's completely different. I think it's the way we think about Ethiopia in general and the way we've been set up to think about Ethiopia. One of them is that Ethiopia is much bigger than we think it is. Because on the map, the way they show Africa, especially as a whole, within that Ethiopia, we think it's actually much smaller than it actually is expansive. And that leads to one other thing. Ethiopian economy is actually much larger than we understand it to be, I think. And those are the things I'm gonna try to talk to you about. One of the things that I'm facing as somebody that provides a tour and travel is embassies that say don't travel to Ethiopia, it's not safe, and this and that. I'm looking at areas in Ethiopia that are completely safe because Ethiopia is so big. There's some problems in the north and there's little problems in the south, but other than that, there's a lot in the eastern part, western part of Ethiopia, even some parts of the northern part and southern part of Ethiopia. There's a whole, like, from Arba Minch all the way to the Kenyan border and stuff like that. There's so much that we can do in Ethiopia, but it's seen as unsafe, and that's because we think if there's something happening here in Ethiopia, say, and that must be easy to get to, or the problem could lead to another problem easily and stuff like that. It's like saying there's a problem in Texas and that affecting New York. Yes, even if there's a problem in Texas, even if there's a huge war in Texas, how long you'll take it to get to New York is very long and very hard, and you'd have to have missiles and stuff to be affected. And that's not what's happening in Ethiopia. It's guerrilla war. Those things combined, I think, create a misunderstanding of what's going on in Ethiopia. So my other point about the Ethiopian economy, one of the things about Ethiopia is a lot of things are done traditionally. Let's say, even my brother in the countryside right now, I have a brother in the countryside, we're trying to do a little bit of land stuff, like farming, like renting from farmers and farming, and chickens. I think for the Easter holiday, he told me he was gonna sell like 80 or 90 of them or something like that. But everything that he does is not really through the banking system or stuff, just because traditionally they barter, they exchange. Yes, he sends money from his account to their account and they send money from their account, but it's not really as a business. It's not really created together so that they can borrow on it. There's been this creation of the Ethiopian investment holding company that's taken all the companies in Ethiopia and put it under that. One of the ideas is putting it under the investment company, and then the investment holding companies, or essentially the country's wealth fund, they want to look at each sector of it. So Ethio Telecom is under that, Ethiopian Airlines is under that. So one of the things that they're saying is, if Ethio Telecom can be so profitable and do this pretty good job in Ethiopia, although there's a lot to be done, but they're doing really well. If they can do that, Ethiopian Airlines can go outside of Ethiopia and dominate a lot of the sector. Why can't Ethiopian electricity do that? Because we have hydro dam, we produce a lot of electricity, we produce a lot of stuff. Why can't it be a really high-powering company that exports to Kenya, Tanzania? We have agreements with these countries right now, actually, Sudan, those things we actually send electricity to, but we can be much bigger because we do have the hydropower in Ethiopia. We do have the electricity to be able to produce more electricity and also to be able to produce more, build more dams and stuff like that. So why can't those companies do that? And there's, I think there's, 20-something, 30-something companies under that they're going strategically by each of them and saying, this company needs to be profitable. And then it produces money for Ethiopian investment fund, and that investment fund pays dividend to the government, and then that also they have, obviously the dividend is paid to the government, and they have more money to invest in Ethiopia. This allocation, recently the CEO of this was being interviewed, and one of the person said, so how much are all these companies worth together? And he said, we're evaluating that right now. We don't know how much they're worth because we're evaluating those things. Because Ethiopian Airlines, maybe it's easier to understand how much it's worth, but it's such a global company. Like, you don't understand. Like, it's the biggest company, the biggest airline in Africa, owns 50%, 40% of different African airlines shares. They operate in different parts of Africa, so it's huge. Ethio Telecom probably has like 80 million subscribers. That's a huge number in an economy that's growing. So that's huge. And the other ones also similar, like this, Ethiopian Bank, National Bank of Ethiopia. I think the opportunities now to actually do a lot of big stuff before the big players come in, and also because of the Ethiopian stock market being opened, there's a lot of things that we can take advantage of now, get in, and later it may be too late.